What's the business, so? What's the business? Yeah, I want to talk about you. You confess God, and but don't want to own up and be God. You confessing God, on God, I'm going to do this. You praying for stuff from God, and when you need God, on God, come through for me, God. And then when God come through and change your life and change that situation, because it's all based on situation, or whether you need the God that you so-called Christianity you say you serve, I serve God. So when I'm calling on him, God being in the form of him, I expect him to show up because I've been serving him in all the manners on God. That's what the YNs or the younger generation have brought this to. And if you're in ministry now, the church how it used to be when you were growing up ain't like church how it is now. But on God, you failing to be God. You saying you desire change, and when change come through, the manifestation fall, you can't fall back up under it. You use on God all the time. On God, I want to get shorty out her drawers and I got to get it. You know what I'm saying? Once you get it and you find out she was too sweet, and you ain't need too sweet, you need a little ratchet in your life. You didn't need all that booze. On God, get her out of my life. But you use God, and you use her about God, because she was searching for somebody else or something else in God herself. Women do it too. On God, you go up in church and you get all this word and you read this word, and when you find men out here, when you get hot and bothered, you using that word on men and you asking for repentance on God. Now, why is this information flowing like this? This is for somebody. On God. On God, because I'm going to take you in, God, and I'm going to take you out. On God, because when I pray for the job, on God, you know what I'm saying? On God, in God, and I give God the credit, and God give me the job, and on the job, they act funny with their money, and I'm making a little more than the other employees that are under me, and I'm a manager. On God. On God now, and I know that they're doing some things, and I'm asking them to do some things that I know I wouldn't do myself and ain't right by myself, but because I'm making a little more money and I'm a little upper management, on God. You know what I'm saying? How long it gonna last with me? On God. You gonna keep your job, you gonna keep your money, you gonna keep telling those under you to do the stuff that you wouldn't do yourself. Now, how many of you know that to be you true? On God, because it's coming through right now. Yeah. On God, men, especially men, when you out hustling your 9 to 5, on God, the product that you serving and selling these people ain't good. Whether you working out in the field, in the mechanical field, or whether you, there go them bugs, y'all. That's how stuff be bugging you, on God. If you looked at my last video, which was last week sometime, that the bug was in there, but on God, I'm going to continue to tell you about you. You're not living up to your manifestation. So, you know what I'm saying? When it can talking about God, then over time, on my mama, you know what I'm saying? On my mama, I knew that's where that derived from. But when you're in the street and on my mama, I'm going to do something to you. Y'all put that on y'all mama. Y'all mama, or on my mother. On my mother, I'm going to do this to you. And you don't even respect your mother, because in that time when you hollering about on your mother, would your mother really do something that you're about to get ready to do on your mama? You know what I'm saying? You being God and not owning up to it. You know what I'm saying? You being God and not owning up to it. It has to be that way. You know what I'm saying? You got to do better, so. And you doing better because you right here on God. You know what I'm saying? On God. Not just giving God the credit, taking credit for yourself. So taking credit for yourself, a little distraction, but it ain't gonna stop now. On God. Because I walk in the soul eternal, soul. I walk in the soul eternal. I thrive in the soul eternal. That's what this is about. Not just thriving and winning. On God. You know what I'm saying? And God can be in all kind of places, everywhere. If you say you serving God the Most High, the most high source that you can get in this dimension. Stop denying yourself the right to continue to come through, because when God show you what's really you, in you, through this matrix, through the things that you say that you need and want, and then when the manifestation comes and you're able to walk the rest of it through, don't go back to sleep, soul, because that's what it's about. Sometimes we go back to sleep. Most times we go back to sleep. We get a little bit of information, a little bit of awakening about ourselves, and things are collapsing into time, into this time realm. And we start to understand, but yet, because of situation and society, we go back to sleep on God. We go back to sleep and on God and say, God, get me back to the place, get my memory back to the place where I'm remembering manifestation in you and what's really about you coming through. I name some situations and I name things about people, but really it's about the power and the energy being extracted out of you on God, you know what I'm saying, out of you to create something better than what's been recycled and what we continue to call the loop. We continue to collapse everything that we're attracted to through our energy, especially on God. So especially on God. So we putting it right back to us. Got to get back to us. Not, somebody you can't point the finger, now because on God ain't got nothing to do with nobody but you. Ain't got nothing to do for nobody but you. So on God. So with that being said, so I want you to have the best part of your life that you possibly can have, and not just part of it, but you realize that taking that part about you out of your equation, you know what I'm saying, out of your equation, because on God you better, I promise you better, if you look at some of the things that you say and some of the things that you collapse, though you look at your future self, right? Your future self. And I spoke about being in the future self, but your future is now helping you right now, because if you're open and not continuing in your loop and recycling what you call the cycle of God, the God has been creating in your past, because remember, the mind will go back to protect you if you're talking about the future, and the future self knows that. So yeah, the future and yourself now is always working with you progressing what? Forward. So, future's not, something far off, is what I'm saying. And that to be true, because you get inclinations of things that's not of yourself in situation on God. I wouldn't think like this. When something happened and you're supposed to act, have a reaction to it, but you don't. You have a moment of clarity, and it may have seemed, suicidal or horrific to everybody on the outside, but you, no, not you. You had a moment of clarity, or what you call a deja vu, or something from your future self, or something that's in the now. Because if it came from a future and you get it now, then that's, to say that it's now. Because the intuition that was not anxiety led you to a calmness to say, hey, I know that's whatever it is, but I'm cool with it because I know I'm going to be all right. And we're going to be all right. So, on God. You feel me? So I just had to drop that into you. On God, I hope you continue to be popping in God's self.